Scott Davis with the Morning Breach for an important tech tip. It is being reported that during the breach of the United States Capitol building, that a laptop belonging to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was stolen. So, the fact that a laptop was stolen isn't surprising. The fact that a laptop was stolen that belonged to the Speaker of the House probably is. But laptops and other portable devices, such as phones, tablets, USB drives, and other devices, are frequently stolen or lost. Within your company's acceptable use policy, employees should be required to report immediately when one of these devices goes missing. So, every company at some point is going to need to deal with a missing device. But the actions taken before a device goes missing is crucial in identifying what steps will have to be taken when a device goes missing. The first thing that needs completed is the understanding of who the user is and what types of data may be found on the device. Every effort should be made to limit data on the laptop itself. But for some users, having that data locally is going to be required for their job. When data has to leave the confines of the server infrastructure, it has to be classified and documented within your data management policy, so that if or when that device is lost or stolen, you know what data is at risk of being breached. That step should be mandatory, but there are proactive steps that can be taken to limit the damage and risk to the data and to your organization. First, ensuring that the password is not on a sticker on the device is a great step one. But enabling a multi-factor authentication process is a more secure method that should be utilized whenever dealing with data of a high or critical classification. It could be PII or your client data. Even without a password, data on mobile devices are at risk of breach. It should be mandatory to require drive encryption, using at minimum the built-in BitLocker or Apple File Vault. At this point, if a device is lost or stolen, you can validate with a degree of certainty that the data is safe. Now that's assuming you know for a fact encryption was enabled and you can validate what types of data was on that device. Now it's likely one or more of the proactive measures was not incorporated and you've experienced a loss of data. Remember that reports of missing or lost devices should funnel to your ID department or your IT vendor. Here, you have to start at the beginning and understand what data was on the device and what, if any, proactive measures were in place to protect that data. If you can't validate with certainty, then you should assume the data was breached. Or even worse, if you don't know what data was stored locally on the device, then you should assume everything that was accessible by the user was stored locally, including any of their emails. Depending on your local federal laws, your federal laws, compliance requirements, and the type of data, it may trigger a breach notification or a potential breach notification, which is why it's better to know than have to assume the worst. The chances of recovering the device varies, pending the type of device, but in reality, you should probably assume that it's not going to be recovered by law enforcement. You've now identified the damage and have started the process of the breach notification. Now it's time to secure the compromised user. Using Microsoft 365 or your email provider, you should be able to lock out and potentially wipe remote data that was stored on the device. You can also ban the MAC address from the firewall, wireless networks, depending on the network infrastructure being used and what the risk is of the device being lost or the risk of data being breached. Passwords should be changed, and the passwords that may have been stored in web browsers, such as Chrome or Firefox, should be assumed compromised as well. And those passwords should be added to banned lists if you have those established. You will also want to go through the systems and services the device was connected to and remove active licenses when applicable, pending, again, the case. Finally, an incident report should be filed, and documentation should be reviewed and updated with changes to the processes followed. That incident report should include the police report number for the lost device. It should include the information of what potentially was on the device or what is known to be. It should list what apps, services were being utilized by that employee that may have been impacted and or breached, among other details such as dates, timestamps, and who reported and when it was reported. Now, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility of the business. It's the responsibility of the business owner to protect their technology assets and data. If you're that business owner, or if you're a person hired to protect those resources by the business owner, you have to ensure that the policies are built to protect you and ultimately the data. If you have questions, ask your IT department or your IT vendor. If you're still not sure, reach out to other local vendors or post a message in the comments. We have a great community of people that follow this. They'll be more than happy to answer it if I don't answer it first. As always, thank you for watching. You can find more great tips, more great news articles, and more resources for you at themorningbreach.com or our Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn channel. Thanks for watching.